The complaint I got was clocks were miscorrecting all over the school. Well, actually not all over the school, but there are two relays here. One of them goes to half of the school for the power. One half of the relay powers half the school, the other half of the relay powers the other half of the school. And the correction signal, 8 seconds every hour. One half sends the correction signal to one half of the school. The other half of the relay sends a correction to the other half of the school. So half of the school was miscorrecting. It was in correction all the time. Over across the bridge, that part of the building, everything was okay. So I followed the bad side. I traced it back to these wires that go down, and I traced it into this box here. The yellow wire is what they use for correction, and I took the correction wire off, and I found out that the clocks would run, but they stopped correcting errantly. And I took all those yellow wires and I searched them all. It was kind of a crude thing to have, because I knew that 110 volts would be on one of the wires and they're just hanging out. So I took my meter, put one side on return, and I found one of the wires had 110 on it. So somewheres in the school there was the power was feeding back into the correction circuit, and it was one of those correction wires, just one out of the bunch of them. So I was able to take the yellow wire that came from the relay and connect them all together except for that one wire that had the 110 on it. And I found when I did that, like 5/6 of the half of the school that was bad was starting to, correct hourly, and at least it wasn't miscorrecting. And then I had to find out where that short came from. Why was the 120 volt feed on the correction wire? What happened? Did somebody miswire it? Was a short in the clock well? One time I found that a clock was knocked off the wall and the wires were twisted around. So I went around looking for something like that. I walked all over the building, or half the building, and it's pretty good. It's like 100 clocks in that half of the building. Couldn't find anything like that, and I found a clock not working, and I took it off. And I came back here. I found 3 clocks not working. 2 of them were the old style clocks, and they just weren't the right time. And then there's this. This is an all sync. It's a new clock. I put it in about 6 weeks ago. And I found that on a good clock, I would ohm from the black wire to the red wire, and it'd be infinity. It should, because they're 2 separate circuits. On this clock, I want to see, I probably won't be able to get it to so you can actually see what's happening here. A little jiggly. Bear with me. I'm going to stick this one wire in here in the black wire. Okay. Let's see, where's that plug here? Take the other one in here in the red wire. See if and there you go. That's less than an ohm. So this clock is shorted internally, and it was putting the feed on the correction, so anything that was hooked into that bunch of correction wires would go haywire. So now I'm waiting for another correction. I don't know if those clocks, did I blow them all out? I might, because they haven't corrected yet. So I might still have a problem. At 5:57:54, I'm going to find out Go look in the clocks, it'll tell you. Right now, I'm getting a red lead on all those clocks. That lead there is red, telling me it hasn't had a correction signal in 15 hours. Or it says the 12 o'clock correction in 15 hours. So, you know, there's a good 20 clocks that might be blown out. So I wouldn't know how to solve that right now. I don't have 20 good clocks. But, you know, I'll do the best I can. But I did get the short out of there. Now this clock came from American Time and Signal, and I'm sure that they'll honor the warranty. But what if this thing shorting out, with no abuse or anything, blew out another 20 or 30 clocks? You know, the only reason why it wouldn't have blown out more is I had a lot of the old style clocks in there that would be impervious to that type of thing. You know, it might eventually burn out the solenoid, but they're pretty robust. Electronic circuitry, getting 110 volts in the wrong place might not be too healthy for it, and it would be through no fault of anybody. Certainly not the technician's fault that clock shorted out and blew out a bunch of clocks. So all that worrying about blowing up about 30 clocks was all for naught. Everything corrected. Actually, when it got to the 6 o'clock correction, I looked in one of those all-sync clocks and saw the green LED going on and off, which means it had seen the 12-hour correction within the last 15 hours. So, in fact, it would have been within the last couple minutes when I did that. But the clock was still off, and about 30 seconds later, away it went. And stopped at the perfect time. It was about 11 after 6 by the time, but it stopped right there, right on time. And I walked past several clocks that weren't corrected on my way through, and on my way back they were. Here's one of them. So we're right on the money. That's 6:58, 6:58:25, something like that. There we are, 6:58. And it doesn't show you the seconds, but we know we got it right on the nose now. And here's the culprit. A shorted all-sync clock, about 6 weeks old.